Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the garden. It is an exciting day here. So exciting, in fact, that I took today off, March 11th, 2025. And the reason I took today off is because it is a beautiful day. The sun is shining and it is supposed to get up to 60 degrees today. So it's going to be wonderful to be outside, getting fresh air and doing anything except shoveling snow and chipping away at ice. In today's video, I thought we'd talk pots. Now, I still have 8 to 10 weeks before I can even think about putting out annuals. But if you go to a garden center right now, they're loaded with all these beautiful pots for you to choose from. So I thought I would do a video today showing you some of the criteria or what I'm looking for pots in my garden. You can grow plants in just about any container as long as it has enough space to hold soil and it allows water to drain out so that the plant roots don't sit in water and rot. You could use an old stump, you could use an old milking can. There's so many things. You don't have to go to the garden center. You could use an old boot and plant in that. So be creative when you're looking at your containers. But in today's video, I want to talk about the common ones that you can find at your local garden center. And we're going to start with ceramic. All these containers come in different sizes and shapes and colors and textures, and what works for you might not work for me. So I'm going to share my thoughts on what I'm looking for in a container. Now, I love a ceramic container. They are beautiful. The glaze, the colors you can get, it's stunning. They're great. Unfortunately, they're not winter hardy for me here. So there's no way I can buy big pots and leave them out in the garden. I have to bring them in and I would have to stack and store them. And that takes up a lot of space. They're very heavy. They would chip if I were to stack them on top of each other. So for that reason, I don't do a lot of ceramic pots when it comes to outside in the garden. Now, I may use them on my patio where I'm going to put a smaller plant, but if it's something I need to leave outside, ceramic is not what I use. But you can buy ceramic pots all over. They're beautiful. Some of the colors are just fantastic on them. And if I were going to give somebody a gift or I was looking for a smaller pot to use, I would really consider ceramic. You really can't beat them for their look. The next type of pot I want to talk about is concrete. This is an old concrete planter. You can see it has a hole in the bottom so it will drain really well. Again, a nice sturdy pot. They really look beautiful. They give some substance to the garden. But again, they're very heavy. They're not cold hardy for me here. You can't stack them. And again, for that reason, I really don't use them. They're very expensive also. They chip. But if you have a place where you can set them and leave them, fantastic. But again, my cold climate, this doesn't work for me. The next type of pot I think we need to discuss are fiberglass pots. Now, these are very lightweight, which is fantastic. They're very realistic. There's all kinds of pot marks in this, so it really does look like a true cast iron pot. But the problem with this is they're very brittle. You can't leave them out over the winter. They're going to crack. If I were to drop this on the ground, it would break. And they're rather expensive, and I think it's not worth the money for the limited number of years you're going to get out of this pot. So as much as they're beautiful, I don't really like them. I'd rather invest in something that's going to last me many, 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 many years. Last year, I picked up some of these pots on clearance at Lowe's, and I'm really rather impressed with them. They are a really thick, heavy-duty, plastic, rubbery kind of a pot. Very substantial. I expect to get many, many years out of these. And they're going to take a beating, and they're not that heavy. And I can also stack them very easily. So I was very impressed with this pot. I used it last year near my pavilion, and they did really well. So if you go to Lowe's and you can get these pots, I would strongly suggest it. I think they have them in tall rectangles now. These were on clearance. But this is a really good, thick, heavy-duty pot. Now, one thing I do want to mention, if you use a black pot, you really need to be careful with what plants you're putting in because it is going to soak up a lot of sunshine and get very hot in there. So if you're trying to do cool season plants, you know, pansies, something like that, this may heat up quicker than normal, and you might not get a long life out of your pansies because it's going to be so hot. But you put some heat loving in the sun in a black pot and you're going to be just fine. But really impressed with this thick rubbery plastic pot. True terracotta pots are expensive, and just like the ceramic pots or the cement pots, I can't use them here and leave them outside because our weather would just destroy them. So for that reason, again, I don't use terracotta. Would love to because they're beautiful and you can get some wonderful shapes and textures on them. They're beautiful, and when they age and the moss is on them, gorgeous. But they just don't survive long enough here to warrant me spending that kind of money on them. So today I went to Lowe's before I started shooting this video, and they are marking down their pots, and they had some of these great big ones that are kind of a faux terracotta look. And just like that black pot that I showed you just a few minutes ago, this is a really thick, almost rubbery kind of pot. So I think I'm going to get many, many years out of it. The other thing that I like about a plastic pot, which I know some people are saying, oh, yuck, 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 plastic pots, but they really can do a good job, especially if you're in a cold climate and you need to bring them in, because they are lightweight and you can stack them. The other thing that I like in a plastic pot is there is no hole in the bottom of them. And you may be saying, but wait a minute, at the beginning of this video you said that a container has to be able to allow water to drain. And that is true, because if the roots of your plants sit in water, they will rot. And that's not good for your plants. But I don't want to fill this whole pot up with soil either. That's a lot of wasted soil. So what I do is I'm going to fill my pot halfway with water and halfway with soil. And let me show you how I do that. To separate the water from the soil in my pot, I have this piece of plastic that will fit down inside my pot, and it fits down to about this depth. I've drilled many holes along here so that the roots can penetrate and get down into the water, because remember, the water's going to be here and my soil level is going to be up here. This goes inside, and then I have a tube that has holes in it, and this goes down in the center of the pot. So basically I have this much is filled with water. Here's my level from my plastic piece that goes here, and I'm going to fill all the way up to here with soil. Now, that's still not going to allow water to get out, so I have to allow water to drain from this pot. And what I'm going to do is figure out where my plastic level is, and we're just going to say that it's here. And I'm going to drill a hole just maybe about 3/4 or to 1/2 inch above that, so that the water level will go to this part. It'll keep a little bit area of my soil damp so those roots can go down into it, and they can go down through the holes that are in here to get into the water. But at the same time, there's a dry area above the soil where the roots can be happy. So if they need a drink, they go down through here. If they need to stay high and dry, they can grow up top. And then I have my hole right here so that when I fill up my pot with water, when it gets too high, it just spits out of the hole. Now, I do not use this technique on any of my pots that are on a deck or wood, because you don't necessarily want water pouring out onto your deck or wood. So this works really good for my patio. This is what it looks like inside the pot. You can see that I have plenty of area for soil because I'll fill my soil level up. This is my barrier. There's holes in here so the roots can grow down into the water. And then this center tube also has some holes in it, so if the roots want to grow into the water, they can, because I will fill this part with soil. It kind of helps as a wick to pull the water up. But I've been doing this for many, many years. My pots are happy. In the heat of summer, I maybe throw water on twice a week on them. I don't have to water constantly. I can go away for a couple days and not have to worry about watering my pots. So this has worked really, really well for me. Again, that's why I like a plastic pot without a hole in it. I cut my circles out of old greenhouse plastic sheets, and that's what I use to separate my water from my soil. But you can buy this Daisy. These were picked up at a garden center, and it's basically the same thing. It fits down inside a pot, has those holes so the roots can grow in it, and you can do water, and then you can do soil. So you're not spending a lot of money on soil. You're giving your plants the water that they need, and it also keeps the pot weighted down too. So if you're in a windy area, having water in the base of your pot may keep them from blowing away and blowing over. But this is the professional version. This is the scrounge around, pick stuff out of the trash version, which I prefer. I like to recycle things. But you can pick these up at the garden center. They come in different sizes. Now, this is about the same size as a lid to a 5-gallon bucket. So if you have 5-gallon buckets and this is the size you need, it's much cheaper to get yourself one of those buckets lids and just drill holes in it. Or if you have cat litter or something like that. But there's many things that you can use for this. You just have to start thinking outside the box. Where do you have large sheets of plastic similar to this? Now, another thing, you don't have to use this. Watch this. Remember this pot? I could get one of those orange upsy daisy things to fit down in here and maybe have it about this size so that this part of the pot is water and then there's soil up here. But another thing I can do is if you check out your pots, find one that will fit down right inside like that. So this becomes all your soil where all your roots and everything goes. You figure out where that level is, which is about here. Drill a hole in here so the water can come out, but it will stay right about here so that the roots can get into the water if they need to. And you plant in this, not this. Again, plastic pots. They will store, they will overwinter. I do keep mine in the greenhouse, but I stack them up. But they last a lot longer for me than a cement pot. And remember, be very careful about the black color. Also, if you're using black pots, remember that you don't want to put a dark plant next to or growing out of this because you won't see it. So that's why terracotta or a light colored pot, you can do all different kinds of colors, but you have to be careful. So I wouldn't want to put, say, like a dark purple sweet potato vine in here because you'd lose it with the pot. So the color of your pot can also influence what kind of plants that you're going to use. Again, a black pot in a sunny spot, really, really hot, hot, hot. So you've got to be careful about what you put into a black pot. Anyway, I hope you liked today's video, and I showed you some of the thoughts that go into the pots that I use here in Zone 5, New York. Basically, it's because it's snowy, it's cold, I can't leave them outside, and I prefer a plastic pot because they're lightweight and it saves my back. Thanks so much for watching today's video. I hope I gave you some pointers for picking pots for your property. And in about 2 months, I'll be potting these up, so I hope you'll join me then, and we'll see just how we put these things together. Have a great day. Take care, and bye-bye.